All right, so things are changing over at Ram, changing at Dodge. I don't know what the hell's happening at Chrysler. Hell, nobody knows I don't even think Chrysler knows what's happening at Chrysler. But recently, just I think yesterday, Ram announced the new 1500 Express. And remember who's leading Ram? It's Tim Kuniskis. And I believe in this situation, this was a wise move, even though for multitude of reasons, I don't agree with it. I think they could be more aggressive with their offering, but I think they're going to sell a bunch of these things, and I'm going to share with you the exact reasons why in just a second, because we've got to roll that intro. Let's click over and show you what's going on here. So Ram announced the Express trim returns for 2026 with bold look, strong towing, and sub $45,000 pricing. And this is basically a very nice looking black truck. And it's priced, in my opinion, still too high, because I remember the days when trucks were cheap, when trucks were what people bought because they were cheap. And people who did work and worked with their hands also bought trucks. People who liked to go fishing and hunting bought trucks. How do I know this? Well, I have unique experience in this because my father was a plumber and we had trucks. And this just takes me back to this Ford truck. This was identical. I found this picture online. My dad had this exact truck in it had to be the early 80s. And this truck was awesome. Here's why it was awesome. This thing was the most basic thing in the world. It had roll-up windows. It had a split window in the back that we had to pop a little latch and slide it open. My sister, myself, and all of my buddies would ride in the bed of this truck. Between the cloth seats and the manual transmission and the mirrors, you had to reach out the window to adjust them. And the very simple pop the hood and work on the engine. The engine was awesome. I remember going fishing once, and my dad was wrestling with the manual transmission with the gear shift, and it just yanked right out of the floor. And all I know is, we were young, and my dad is on his back underneath the truck and rolling around and puts this thing back together with his hands and some basic tools that he had so we could continue getting the little 13-foot Boston Whaler fishing boat to the boat launch in the morning. This was the kind of truck that we had. Now, here's the deal. Let's go back and look at what he had before that. This was exact looking truck, a Ford Courier. This is a 73. This was right around there because it looked exactly the same thing. Same thing. We had three of us would ride in there to go to the plumbing jobs. I'd ride in the middle, and the plumber guys would be on the right and my dad on the left, and we'd be crammed in that little truck going to a job site. And while my dad's having to shift the gears and we're rolling in the windows. And if you look right here, remember this was what we had for air conditioning. You just twisted this little lever here, and then this little wind wing would pop open, and you could point it forward, and it would let air come into the truck and hopefully cool you off despite being the heat of summer, the dead of summer. So that was trucks that I remember. We don't have those trucks anymore that I can find. I mean, you can go shopping around, but trucks have gotten so stupidly expensive that now they're luxury vehicles. And if you look at this thing, everything about it is luxury. By the way, let's talk about the powertrain. They're bringing back the Pentastar. I don't know if it's ever gone away, but they got the Pentastar in this thing, which gives it the cheaper, lower trim, lower horsepower version. But if you look at the inside, look at that. I wouldn't want to go fishing in that truck. I wouldn't want to stuff a bunch of plumbing guys in there with my dad going to a rough job site and sweat and stink up and mess up that truck. These things look like cars on the inside. I think that while this is gonna sell, and I think Kuniskis is brilliant for pushing this forward, I think, and the towing capacity is amazing. They're marketing this thing too with the Hurricane engine. They're certainly marketing this thing to the yuppie truck owners. And the people are taking their their jet skis and their boat out to the lake, and they're a large boat because it can tow 11,550 pounds. And this, look, the gas mileage is decent for a truck, but look at the stitching in there. These things look like Mercedes-Benz interiors. But let's check out the stuff that we don't need. We don't need adaptive cruise control in the truck. We don't need automatic emergency braking, pedestrian emergency braking. All these are wonderful things, but they all cost lots of money. But they are going to save some money on badging because it'll have no badging. It'll be black. It'll be fairly simple. But they are going hard with the black bezel LED headlamps and interior touches like liquid graphite laser, etched accents, and gridiron colors complete the look. So the truck is going to look phenomenal. And yes, people are going to buy it. And for those of us that love the Hemis and would much rather have a Hemi than any six-cylinder, the bottom line is most people aren't as crazy as we are. They just want a truck, and they want a truck at a reasonable price. Now, do I think this is a reasonable price? I will tell you, here's some options you can get. I honestly think it's still too much money. Look at this. So the quad cab, two-wheel drive, for just under 45. They always just barely get it under the target price. This is with destination, by the way. The crew cab, two-wheel drive, 47. Now we're getting closer to 50 grand. And then the quad cab 4x4 at 48. And the crew cab at 51. I think, regardless of my personal feelings about trucks needing to be a lot cheaper, this isn't horrible. You're getting a very, very nice, well-appointed, suit and tie guy type pickup truck for 50 or low 50 grand with four-wheel drive and a crew cab. Now, I think that's going to sell. I think it's going to sell like crazy. And here's why. Interest rates are going to come down. And when those rates come down, I don't know, but let's just say it's 2026 or late 2025, then this is going to be a screaming deal for what you're getting. And let me show you why, even though I still think they should have came out with something without all this crap on it, without all these options, and maybe Tim Kuniskis still will throw a 5.7 Hemi in that body and make it as cheap as possible. They will sell so many and make so much money. And think about this. Let's go look at the pricing of the reason why I believe they've got a chance. So here's their lineup for 2026 and the beginning prices. So here's the MSRP pricing, estimated, of course. Excuse me. So you've got the Tradesman at $43,000. The Diesel, I believe this one is, at $44,000. The Express that we're talking about at $44,495. And then things become stupider and stupider and stupider and stupider and stupider until you get up to over $90,000 for a truck. So the way Ram is looking at this, the way Tim Kuniskis, I'm sure, is looking at this is, listen, anything in this price band is going to sell. It's going to sell way more than these price bands. And if they can keep the cost to build these things, cost to manufacture these things relatively cheap, they can also absorb some of the upcoming and future possible tariff effects down the road. And frankly, in this ridiculous world we've gotten to, is when you're looking at anything in that 50,000 and below range is suddenly an affordable vehicle compared to everything else on the market that is 60, 70, 80, 90, and $100,000, especially in very nice, well-appointed trucks. And this truck is a very nice, well-appointed truck. But what I would love to see them make, and then I think they could sell, and Tim, if you ever see my videos, build a cheap truck, roll up windows. I heard TK say this, and it just resonated with me as well. Give us the cheap roll up. Well, we got the Tradesman. It's still a lot of money, still $43,000. Give us a basic truck, get it in the 30s, and you will sell them hand over fist. And I mean, you don't have to put any of this adaptive cruise control or power mirrors or any of this extra stuff. You don't even have to put a big old radio in that thing. As a matter of fact, I remember being able to buy work trucks when my dad's business started to expand a little bit, work trucks without any radio, without anything. And if you wanted to put something in later, you could. And it was simple. It was a bed on a frame, and it was a cab, and you had a window. If you were lucky, you got the split window you can open up, and you can roll up and down the windows with your hands. You had a wind wing, and you didn't even, in some cases, have air conditioning. I think nowadays you just should have it. They should keep that as an option. Not even as an option, as standard. But outside of that, I think they could whittle this down. They would be shocked and amazed. And here's why. What'll happen is people will buy that cheap truck and they will customize that cheap truck to be the truck that they want it to be. If they want it to be a fishing truck, they'll leave it alone and they'll keep it basic and they'll beat the hell out of it. But if they want it to be a cool luxury truck, they'll make it that way themselves. They'll fix that truck up and put a camper shell on it if they want to use it for that. They can make that truck however they want it to be. And then give the options where you can get the leather and everything else. But create a base option that you can straight up walk in and buy a $35,000 pickup truck. I still love to see it below that. But nowadays, that's super challenging to get to. But if they got into the 30s with a pickup truck, they would smoke Ford, they would smoke Chevy, they would smoke everybody in launching a full-size truck. Even if it had a 6-cylinder, but let's just say you put the Pentastar in there, you can make that thing for so cheap. But let's say you threw the 5.7 in that thing. So now you've got the cheapest truck, but a great engine, a V8. This thing's going to fly off the shelves. And Graham, you can bring that company back. You could single-handedly help bring Stellantis back into becoming a player and get their stock price straightened out for once and for all. So with that, everybody, let me know what you think about this. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.